Hello, Sid and Jay. Jay is on the road, returning from Hawaii from a great vacation, from what I hope is a great vacation. So I'm recording the update for the both of us. This is sprint 3 of Double GDP, and a lot of good stuff in these last 2 weeks. Um, the theme that we had started with was that we wanted to do prep work for recruiting and just get our act together so that we could start in earnest really meeting a lot of people and getting the recruiting pipeline filled. It turned out also to be a great opportunity to meet with Muya and Mark and spend some quality time with our network. So we'll go through a little bit more about that as well. On the recruiting side, the good news is we do have a JD up now posted on the website for a founding head of engineering. We unfortunately it was too long to include in the newsletter from Mark, so we'll follow up on the next one and make sure to get a blurb in there. Just had a disconnect in terms of the format that he needed for his newsletter. But I think it's up and running, and we have much more clarity about what we're looking for, I think. And now there's something that at least is out in the public. The other exciting update is we got our promo video that we were working on for in Kwashi ready for publication. So we sent Muya a final draft. Jay did a great job with editing there, and it's fun to watch sort of how the video flows. But added some background audio, background soundtrack there, and have some quotes from me and Muya in the video. And Jay's even thinking about adding a little survey at the end so people who watch the video would have the opportunity to reach out and contact us. On the partner front, we had a lot of quality time talking with Mark and Muya, and is mostly like thinking about philosophy and talking through some of the learnings and observations that Jay and I had both had around the readings and blogs that we've been watching and listening to. There were a few sort of more tactical and tangible things that I think are worth communicating in a status update. One, Mark conveyed that the name Double GDP may not play well with an African audience. There may be some sensitivity there around it seeming too big or too comprehensive, given that they're the developers of the cities and we're playing a software role. So I think that's important to take note and just sort of keep in our back pocket for the moment. He asked if we were open to changing the name, and we said we were not wedded to it yet, but certainly like it for what it is. Muya also, I'm glad we were able to make a few introductions to Muya out of my network. So we've introduced him to a venture capitalist who works in education. We introduced him to an executive at a startup global university, and an economist who we met actually at the event that Mark had organized, the Center for Innovative Governance Research. We met an economist there who hires people in Africa and had feedback about the skills that she's been seeing and sort of ways that the university that Muya is working on could be very useful to her. So we made those connections, and Muya is following up with all three. So that's kind of a delight to see networks come together. And in addition, it was great to have both of them at the party at your 40th birthday party to see them and socialize a little bit and have get a chance to sort of share all the fun that was that evening. In the broader ecosystem, we also had a few conversations with other contacts. One is a graduate of the African Leadership University, and he talked with us a little bit. So just somebody who's there, who Jay got connected to through the network. And I think the main takeaway from that conversation is he asked a lot about the incentives that residents will have to sign into the app, to use the app on a regular basis. And I think there was, we've been thinking about that as a security, that you have to use the app to get in. And he had a different take, or he had his initial thinking on that area was, do some sort of discounts or coupon codes or things along those lines. Jay and I talked afterwards and thought to ourselves that that may not be quite the way that we want to think about incentive structures is to do discounts. But I think that the bigger point of just saying that we want to make sure that there's a clear value proposition for residents to use the app is one that we are taking to heart and thinking about. And then we also met with another entrepreneur who's in the network thinking about building a startup city, and he is thankfully moving to the Bay Area shortly, so we'll be able to have a lot more frequent contact with him, hopefully. And he was talking a little bit about his vision to build. He's starting with building student housing in Lagos, I believe, that to sort of house students that are all taking the same sort of course material and providing them a good place to live. I also asked him about what would his dream be for DoubleGDP and how we might contribute to his success. And he talked a little bit about there's apparently an app in LA, and I don't remember the name of it offhand, but there's an app in LA that bar owners can use to recruit models to come and stay at the bar and to come for a certain evening, and that attracts more people to the bar. And he was thinking that this could be something that would scale not just based on physical beauty, but also based on attributes and interests that residents of a city have, and would love for DoubleGDP to have some way of understanding what are the interests of the residents in the city and being able to help local businesses find clientele within it. So I thought that was within the residents. I thought that was a really fascinating idea, and not quite sure how to act on it yet, but just letting that percolate, and enjoyed the brainstorming session with him. On the recruiting front, we also had actually more progress than I would have expected, given sort of that we don't yet have much of an outward bound pipeline. But I met with one engineer and two designers who expressed interest in working with us more. One is an engineer that's actually very engaged has done city work in the past, and had experienced frustration with the pace of change of a city and the ability for the administration to actually act on many of the recommendations and technological improvements that he was able to build. And so he was very excited about the idea of working with new cities and thinking about starting something from scratch and working directly with an entrepreneur who is quite excited and motivated to get things into the market quickly. So that was fun. And we'll share the product mocks and the specs, the sketches that we have with him, and see if we can engage him more and get his thinking. And I also met with one designer who works at Yahoo, and who's sent some of his portfolio, and I really liked. He had a very clean visual style. He's from West Africa and has some of familiarity with challenges of working in that area, and even brought up issues of cell phone connectivity, and that one of the challenges of building and designing an app that works well there is that you may start with connection and then in that same interaction lose that connection and have to sort of fall back to SMS messaging or things like that. And he had some designs in his own portfolio around that kind of thing, because he's thinking about a startup also in that space. And so he had some initial designs, but I just really liked the work that he did. And he also felt excited about the work that we're doing, and interested in talking more. And then also another designer who we had more of a conversation around information architecture and thinking about the website. And he delivered a really detailed assessment of our website, pointed out a lot of things that I think are obvious areas for improvement, many of which I've acted on already and got updated, like some broken links and things along those lines where there were inconsistencies, but then also thinking about the information architecture and how to tell a more compelling story. So I think that there are ideas there that I'm excited about taking and working on soon. On the web, speaking of the website, we did make a lot of progress here in this sprint. We got a careers page. Well, we had wanted to get a careers page posted, but it turns out just to be a section on the main flow that we have up and running. But we do now have a link to careers@doublegdp.com and a post to our job description for our founding head of engineering. So that is up. I'm excited to have that. I think definitely ways to improve on both of those. But it's in the spirit of iteration. It's up and live. We have drafts of blog posts and a sort of explanation of the name of why DoubleGDP. Did not get quite as far along on those as we had hoped in this sprint. I think partly or largely, I got stalled on putting the website up with just spent some time trying to debug something that turned out to be a simple mistake, but took me a few hours or sidetracked me for a few hours. But then when I did get around to it, I also realized that the template that we have for the website doesn't have sub pages built in. Everything is on one sort of main flow. And so it turned into more work than I had expected to be able to try to get those things up and running. So we'll revisit that in the next sprint and maybe see if we can engage that designer in some site architecture kind of work. And then we're excited. We got a meeting scheduled with the Nkwashi team for later this week, for Thursday morning our time, to go through the sketches and product mocks that we sent them earlier in the sprint. And so we'll get their feedback and see hopefully whether we're right track, wrong track on some of those, and take what they like and iterate again on things that they found that didn't quite hit the mark. And then just a few sort of random things in terms of learnings and updates on our network. Mark is still working hard to recruit a woman who was very formative in the African Union, in putting together the African Union, working from the UN. And she's going to be doing some planning sessions with him, and he invited us to join. So hopefully we'll dial into some of those when they get going and can learn more about how she and they are thinking about building out the vision for charter cities. And a lot of just scouring of the internet of the Greenfield Cities Alliance, which was not on our radar a couple of weeks ago, and now is, and there's just a lot of names and projects that we've added to our CRM, but not yet had a chance to follow up with. So that gives sort of a little bit more breadth and may help open our network beyond the current sort of charter cities movement that we seem to be very actively engaged in. But it seems like there are other projects that might be a little bit further afield than some of the people that we've been talking to already. And so it'll be exciting to see if there's other things going on that we can, and other networks we can tap into. So I think that's it for today's update. Look forward to talking tomorrow and being in touch. Jay, hope all your travels are going well and look forward to seeing you soon. Bye, guys.